Hello and welcome in tips comparison for 7 days to die Darkness Falls. As you might know, I made few videos some time ago about tips for Darkness Falls version 3.4. Since I received a ton of positive comments, I decided to make some sort of comparison with A20 Darkness Falls, to check if those tips are not outdated. I will not be explaining every single tip, just make quick recap and some sort of checklist trying to highlight the changes. I will place in the description links to the original videos. Without further ado, let's get to it. Very first tip I recorded was about the food early game, when I was talking about the apples and fruit salads and some bread and the sandwiches. So there have been some changes in this department for the version 4.0. This is the table, well, it's not the table, it's a box, but you know what I mean. So how it works, as you can see, I've got some ingredients, some fruits and veggies, and yucca and this kind of stuff. And after I have what I need actually to make the particular recipe and the recipe itself, so we can compare it. What I notice is that the very best food early game, which requires nothing apart of the campfire, are baked potatoes. They give 8 foods. They don't require grill, cooking pot, nothing, just basically potato, which you can find in temperate biome, which is perfect. After we've got the grilled yucca. Yucca grows in temperate biome as well. That's a change between the version 3.4 and 4.0, which is convenient. And yucca apparently is quite important in this version. I will mention this later on. From the oranges, actually you have to have 2 oranges here, not just 1. You can make the dried oranges, which gives just 3 foods, so it's kind of pointless to do it unless if you have nothing else around, no potatoes, no yucca, nothing like that, and or you don't have the grill. Yeah, it's kind of doable. We also have the apple, the baked apple, of course, although the apple trees are harder to find in this version. And the fruit salad. I mentioned that the grilled yucca is quite important. It is because from the grilled yucca, using the cooking pot, you can make tapioca. And tapioca is the ingredient for the flour, and flour is the ingredient for yeast, so all this goes to bread. We see here, so 2 yucca and 1 water, using cooking pot on a campfire. We have a tapioca, using either wheat, which I believe we can find in desert biome, either tapioca, using mortar and paste we make the flour, and from flour, wheat and water we can make the yeast. We can make the dough either using coconuts, which are available in a desert biome again, or flour and water we can make a dough, and from 2 dough we can make bread. There's much more sandwiches in this version, including bacon and egg sandwich, which sounds really cool. However, still the best sandwich is a steak sandwich. Let me go through it. We look just at the stats, yeah? Food, health and max stamina. So the food is 20, food is 20, food is 30. However, you need to have the blueberry jam and peanut butter, which are hard to come by. Marmalade, 30 as well. Again, orange, you have to have the orange marmalade, which is locked up behind the recipe. Orange marmalade is locked behind the sous chef, unless you have a sous chef. This is kind of like, you know, the pear toast, which is a new thing. You can make it from the can of pears. So finally the pears are useful in the version, because in previous version I basically scrapped all of those. But they give just 15 food, and beans on toast give 20 food. You need the grill for those 3 recipes, and the bacon and egg gives 20 food. So the easiest way to do it, the easiest way to make it, is the grilled meat. Obviously you need the grill for the grilled meats, I didn't include it in here, but it's vanilla recipe. But yeah, it's still the best sandwich, giving 25 with relatively simple recipe. Second tip was about a dye. It was explanation what you actually can use the dye for in Darkness Falls, and why is it important, and which one is important. As we remember, I mentioned the black and the pink one are the most important, because pink one is most expensive and the black one is to make the classes. Pretty straightforward. There are changes to this as well. Now, pink is no longer that expensive. It costs 56. The most expensive dye from all of this is black one, which is 76, which is still not that great. Those three are still useless. Well, white was, I mentioned this, that it will be good to keep it because it was expensive. It is not anymore, it just costs 10. So those four are completely useless. If you really want to find some cash, keep the pink one and the green one because they are a little bit more expensive than other dyes. But as you can see, it's not really big difference. The green one costs 28 and the pink one costs 56. Those all cost like 10, 9, 14. You can see the prices. They are important still, and the black one being the most expensive is the most important one because you can make ink and after you can make the classes. So there are some changes in here. We no longer have to keep the pink one because it's not worth it. 56 is, it's not worth it. For me, at least, it's not worth it. There are some interesting changes to the mission system in Darkness Falls. I call it update. It's much improved. First of all, there are still factions. As you can see on the screen, we still have the factions, and you do the missions for the particular trader and gain the points towards the faction where you eventually can reach the higher level missions. Exactly the same like vanilla. However, there is White River Survivors faction as well, which is the unique traders in Darkness Falls, which gives you the missions, some sort of tasks from Alpha 19 you could find in pieces of paper. So she gives you these missions. When you reach level 10 of those missions, she sends you to another trader and you have to do some stuff for another trader. I don't want to spoil too much, but basically this is like alternative road to the mission system for the Darkness Falls versus the vanilla. The one tip, when you reach the new trader, mark it on the map, because the missions he gives you, they usually don't send, you have this indicator when the trader is, when you finish the mission. So those missions doesn't give this indicator. You have to know where this trader is. So save yourself some time and just mark it on the map that this trader is here. Pocket mods. Yes, the pocket mods are still going to the clothing. Like, there is no changes here. Those two pockets, the double and single one, are no in Darkness Falls. I spawned them for the comparison, but they are not in Darkness Falls. The only pockets you can find in Darkness Falls are single, double and triple pocket mods. So the standard ones. Now, they don't go to the armor, they go to clothing. No, hold on. They go to clothing and they give exactly the same places as it says. There is no difference here. If it's +3, it's +3. It's not like +6 or anything. So you can trust the descriptions. Unfortunately, there is a change to the time in Darkness Falls as well. And there was a tip to how to figure it out, the time early on. So the time is still in the vending machine and in the trader. However, we cannot rely on crickets anymore because they are not consistent. Sometimes they are at certain times, as I mentioned, 12 and 7 p.m. Sometimes they aren't. So this is no longer an indicator for the time, which is a shame. I mentioned in the previous video the problems with the watch, that it keeps disappearing, the time keeps disappearing if you change the mods and stuff. So this issue is still around. When I remove the mods and I put the watch first, and after other mod, the watch disappear. You have to put the watch as the last one. Alright? I mentioned in the previous video that in version 3.4 there were sterile bandages, which you can spam them. So basically you can apply multiple them. You don't have any cooldown. In version 4.0 it works exactly the same way, plus the first aid bandages works exactly the same way, so you can apply multiple them. I think in version 3.4 those were working the same way, I just didn't check them. So this tip is still up to date. Also, you get a little bit of the XP when you apply the bandage. Look at the XP bar. However, the trader right now, it it looks like it has less bandages available. Before it was like 20 straight off the bat. Right now there are just a couple of them.
Good day.
But I believe you can make the bandages with a ball of sap. So it's not that horrible to make. Who is making a ruckus? Crouching through one tile still works. Vitamins no longer protects you from getting food poisoning when you take it before eating. However, there is a big change in cans in food poisoning. I split this here. I've made some sort of comparison between the can of food, and as we can see, the rations, they have no food poisoning at all. This is a big change. Previously they had 20%. After we have can of sham and can of tuna with 5% food poisoning, and after we have peas and pears with 5%, and all other cans have 20%, and the dog and cat food has 25%. I took some pills, so let's debunk this protection. There you go, the first can. Also, I just mentioned here, tomatoes are no longer safe to be eaten raw. First of all, they give just 2 food, they used to give 5, and the second thing, you can have a dysentery eating the raw tomatoes as well. There you go. Combining items works exactly the same way like previous version, with exactly the same rules about the mods and stuff. Opening ammunition and arrows is exactly the same like it was in version 3.4. We just have more ammunition. I put the table on the screen so you can see. There is also some inconsistency with the new bullets. Some of them cannot be scrapped, like for example 44 Magnum ammo. I put the bullet instead where there was a place for scrapping materials. And arrows, slugs and rockets. Finding ore in version 4.0 is exactly the same. Boulders yield some material, like you can see, this is iron, this is coal, and underneath the boulder we can find relevant material. Tip about collecting the materials early on didn't change much. There is still brass catcher with 100% for the security class with 100% chance to reclaim bullets, so the brass is not so important. Electrical parts, scrap polymers for the coil guns. That will be the materials to collect. Exploit number 1, so the exploit for the advanced bellows doesn't work anymore. Exploit number 2, however, still works. It looks like Mythic's Dino Shades are still in game, however I spawned them from the creative menu, so that might need to be confirmed by someone who found them. They have crazy loot bonus and 25% bonus quest rewards. There is still a difference between picking up the plants and punching them. This one pick up, just 1, and this one we punch, 2. Collecting sap is also the same. In regards of tip for how to get particular items in game or particular materials, there is a slight change. Of course, we can still scrap the hazmat gear to get the hazmat fiber and make the mods for the armor. One thing to bear in mind, the mods are named differently now. The radiation ready mods. The radiation ready are the mods, the hazmat stuff is things you can wear. 20% it is the same thing. It works the same way. They look like they are quite expensive. They are more expensive than they used to be, but that might change when I get the scientist class. The gun parts, there used to be a case to scrap them for iron. I don't know if you remember. You cannot longer do it. You can just drop them. There is no option to scrap them anymore. The military gear for the military fiber, yeah, it works. Schematics the same, and the books the same as the previous version. It looks like vehicles work after 6 PM on a Horde day, and after 7 PM, after 8 PM, and even after 9 PM. So I think this is no longer a case, which is great. It looks like level 5 bird supplies still spawn multitool. There you go. You can also find multitool in the desks. There you go. I also checked Caitlin's secret stash. I reset it like 30 times, but it looks like she doesn't have the multitool or the laser workbench anymore. At least it didn't spawn. If any of you found those tools in Caitlin's stash, please let me know in the comment. Unfortunately, I was not able to find any information about the baby animals just yet. I didn't find any through the normal game, or I couldn't spawn the wolves. So I don't know if the next step, so having a pet, it's still correct or not. It might require more testing. I would assume that the animal husbandry has been improved as well, however it hasn't been tested yet, and probably it will be a separate video. Checking hit on the map didn't change. It's exactly the same way like it was last time. Bear in mind that in multiplayer on a server you might not be able to do it. I've seen some instances when that option was not available. However, for the single player, follow the same path. And the last tip, which POI to check on the new created map, this actually changed a little bit. Those are all the items that you need. Obviously some of them are duplicated because this is the standard map, but you will need the Anna's house, Eve's camp, military bunker, Razor's house, lab, the research lab, and the settlement, the Caitlin settlement. I don't think Caitlin settlement is needed for the quests, however, those buildings, basically they are Darkness Falls buildings. Congratulations! You've reached the end of this video. I hope I didn't bore you to death. Making this video was actually quite useful reminder for myself as well. If you like this video, you might find interesting my gameplay for Alpha 20 Darkness Falls. Link you can find in the description. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.